This week on Jersey Matters, are we looking at another shutdown? Dr. Brian Strom from Rutgers University says everything should be on the table if COVID cases keep going up. One of New Jersey's top chefs says the hiring crisis at restaurants is still a big problem. We'll talk with Chef David Burke. Candidate for Congress Tricia Flanagan says no one should have the right to ask you if you've been vaccinated. And one of the stars of the hit reality show Naked and Afraid is from New Jersey. We'll talk with Medford's own Dani Beau. Hello and welcome to Jersey Matters. I'm Larry Menti. The Delta variant of COVID-19 has created a rise in cases in New Jersey, and health officials in the state are getting concerned, including Dr. Brian Strom, Executive Vice President of Health Affairs at Rutgers University, who predicted this surge when he appeared on Jersey Matters 3 weeks ago.
We will probably have a surge in 3 weeks because the Delta variant. July 4th combined with the Delta variant together. Hopefully a very small surge. We will hopefully never be back where we were.
Doctor, thanks a lot for joining us again. We're having you on because you made a prediction the last time I talked to you a few weeks ago. You said, watch, a couple of weeks after the 4th of July, there's going to be a rise in cases. And now there's a rise in cases in every state in the country. So I'm sorry to say you were right. I wish you weren't. What can we learn from this?
Interesting question. So first, let me back up. In January 2020, when the pandemic was only an epidemic in China, I predicted 500,000 deaths, and people thought I was crazy. It was an underestimate. I didn't predict the incompetence of some of the leaders, but unfortunately, this isn't rocket science. What can we learn? That science matters. That things are reproducible. I have predicted, and I'm certainly not. I don't mean to say this is uniquely me or I have a magic crystal ball or anything. As an epidemiologist, the course of this is foreseeable. As long as we're not mostly vaccinated, we're going to have these problems. And part of it, which makes it worse, is that as long as so far the vaccines have worked against all other variants. The variant, but all the unvaccinated people are what one of my colleagues has called a variant factory. That this will continue to mutate. That is the nature of viruses. It will continue to change. And at some point, we risk it changing into something the vaccines don't work against. And then we're back where we were last spring in terms of the pandemic. I think we released the public health measures too quickly, particularly with Delta on the horizon. My guess is over the next few weeks, things are going to get worse and then better again. We're not going to go back where we were in the spring, certainly not in New Jersey, because we're one of the best vaccinated states in the country. But next few weeks, it's 2 weeks after the exposures, you get cases. That's what happened. 2 weeks after that, you get hospitalizations. That's happening now. And 2 weeks after that, you get the deaths. And that is a completely foreseeable. We've seen that now for a year and a half. That's what we will see over the next few weeks. But because we're outdoors, at least in New Jersey, it's then going to start improving. We then will see it again 2 weeks after Labor Day. That same sequence, but because we'll be moving indoors at that point in the fall, it's going to get worse, and it'll stay worse and continue to get worse. If we don't get people vaccinated, more people vaccinated between now and then. There's a reason New Jersey is in much better shape now than Missouri, which is like New Jersey was last spring. Hospitals overwhelmed, they don't have enough oxygen, and so on. We have a substantial proportion of our population vaccinated, but not large enough to it blunted it, but it didn't kill it. And we need a much larger proportion of the population vaccinated.
Yeah, I was going to push back a little bit on what you said about New Jersey, because we're nowhere near the numbers that people say we need for herd immunity. And certainly there's been a rise in cases. And if you are correct, there will be a rise in deaths now over the next couple of weeks. And so that isn't a wake-up call for New Jersey?
You would hope. But there's still people who are resisting it. I think we risk having to go back into lockdown. And it depends on how well the existing vaccinations blunt that. So let me back up. My prediction earlier on was that after Memorial Day, 2 weeks later, we were going to have another peak. And how far we would go in that peak would depend on how well the vaccinations worked. But that after July 4th, it would be much worse because now we'd have the Delta variant, which is dramatically more contagious. People don't understand. Delta variant, not only do people infected with the Delta variant presented day 4 instead of day 6, but when you culture their respiratory tract, the breathing, where they breathe, the amount of virus compared to the original virus from a year ago is over 1,000 times higher. There is that much extra virus when people get infected with Delta. So what it means is this issue of 6 feet and 15 minutes and all the protections we thought about before are out the window because you pass people casually and you risk getting it if you're not vaccinated. And yet the vaccine works. And so it works extremely well. Again,
well, you're hearing more and more cases, doctor, of people who got the vaccine coming down with the Delta variant. So yes, it works to a certain effect, but it doesn't seem like it worked on the original virus as well.
Yeah. So yes, but let me clarify that. First, no vaccine is perfect. No vaccine protects against all disease, even against the original virus. The mRNA vaccines, the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines, were 95% effective. It means 5% of people were going to get sick. When you start with a very large number, 5% is still a large number. It doesn't work quite as well against Delta as it works against the original, exactly as you stated. But what it does do is it protects against hospitalizations and death. Now, well over 99% of the people now in the hospital or dying are unvaccinated. So it doesn't prevent you from getting infected. Mostly it prevents you from getting symptomatic, but not 100%. But it prevents you from getting sick enough to be in the hospital or die. So if you get infected, even after the vaccination, you may pass it on to other people. So you are at risk to, even if you're vaccinated, if you are infected, even if you have no symptoms, you're at risk to the people who aren't vaccinated.
Well, it sounds like things could change weekly. So if you don't mind, would like to check in on you again. Okay. You have a wealth of information. Thank you so much, sir. Dr. Brian Strom from Rutgers University. Still to come on Jersey Matters, there's still a hiring crisis in New Jersey. Chef David Burke, one of the top restaurateurs in New Jersey, tells us how he's coping next. Welcome back to Jersey Matters. Small businesses are still struggling in New Jersey. First, they have to deal with a hiring shortage, and then they have to deal with rising cost on, well, just about everything. Chef David Burke, who's about to open his 7th restaurant in the state, tells us how he's coping. Chef, thanks so much for spending some time with us. And by the way, congratulations. I heard you got a couple of awards. You're a finalist for the Entrepreneur of the Year for 2021, and you've received the Community Impact Award. So congratulations on that. You seem to be the perfect person to talk to about our topic today, which is life running a business, a restaurant, after the pandemic. Are you suffering the same hiring crisis that other people are complaining about?
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, by the way, for having me on. Yeah, we're in a lot of pain actually when it comes to hiring people. We went through the pandemic, and we all struggled, especially the restaurant industry and other small businesses. But now we have an opportunity to try to make up for some of that, and we can't because we can't book as much. Like we don't have the workers. We don't have the bus boys and the waiters and the dishwashers and the cooks. We don't have the right ones in the right places because people are staying home and collecting unemployment, or they're being offered lots more money elsewhere in the seasonal restaurants that only have a 12-week window. Normally on the Jersey Shore, we have 3 properties: Red Horse in Rumson, Drift House in Seabright, where I am today, and Beach House in Belmore. So all up and down the coast, it's tough to compete with each other, and also competing with the government with the stimulus checks. We have some people that would rather stay home because they're collecting the same or close to what they would make anyway. And they're like, why bother? So yeah, we definitely feel it. We feel the pain.
Now you have 6 restaurants, right? And you're opening a 7th one in Morristown, 1776. How many employees with all those restaurants would you normally have if you're at full staff?
Well, I'd say out of the 7 in New Jersey, you're talking between 550, 600 employees.
That's when you're full staff. What are you at now?
Oh, we're probably under 500, easily 450, maybe 100 employees short, which means we're doing 2 things. We're paying a lot of overtime, and our salaried people are maxed out, 6 and 7 day work weeks. The people that are salaries, the managers, the chefs, the sous chefs, the ones that make more than they could make sitting home, they have to work extra, and there's always somebody not coming in. We still have some strains of COVID too, a person here or there, not as much as it was in the past, but it's really the wear and tear on their bodies.
When you have to make up for a loss of business, does that cause a rise in prices?
Well, I would love to raise my prices, but I can't deliver an exceptional meal guaranteed because I don't have the right staff. Right? So there's a catch-22. Raising your price is a temporary fix. So I don't want to raise prices and get stuck with a high price or Yelp review that says this place is too expensive. All right, so we're continually, our payroll is 25% higher than it should be because we have to compete with the government. We have to compete with our neighboring restaurants, which is usually more hospitable when you take a person. You make a phone call, you don't take 2 or 3 people, you don't offer them crazy amounts of money out of desperation and take 2 or 3 people from one restaurant. It's not the culture in which restaurant business operates in. But right now it's like cover your butt. We got to you need bodies. So we're luckily we have enough restaurants where we can borrow a couple people here and there, but the salaried people are working their tails off. We're borrowing people from New York City. New York City, we're only open 5 days a week. We can't even staff for 7. New Jersey, we're usually open 6 days a week. So we're feeling it. And the stress goes on to people like myself. We're working 6 and 7 days, as well as the salaried people, because we can't fill the dishwashing job. There's an article in the New York Post today about our struggle with getting those lower positions. And listen, everyone deserves a fair paycheck without a doubt, especially people in the kitchens. Wait staff normally makes more money. And if we raise prices, waiters get a raise, right? They get a percentage of sales. Yeah. So
I'm fascinated by the fact that you're saying, and I believe you're saying, you're able to keep prices the same. Aren't you paying more for product?
We're paying more for product, and to raise your prices to cover some of that increase in product is easy enough to do in our restaurants. So we've done some of that, but like for beef pricing, we just can't keep raising our price. We can't. So we take a haircut on some of the items that were priced.
I really appreciate your time. I haven't been to one of your restaurants yet, but I need to, because our editor says, quote, "You have amazing food."
Thank you.
So
thank you.
I wish you the best of luck, and thanks again.
New Jersey restaurateur Chef David Burke. Next on Jersey Matters.
Is COVID-19 more of a threat than the vaccine itself? We'll hear from both sides coming up next on Jersey Matters.
That lovely blue color we all like to see happens as a result of how sunlight is scattered. On a normal day with good air quality, the beam of sun hits an air molecule and all colors of visible light are scattered far and wide. Air molecules scatter blue colors more effectively, so that leads to the sky appearing blue when looking away from the sun. Now, when we have poor air quality, maybe it's a wildfire or a high concentration of ozone over your region, there are dust and smoke molecules in the mix, which are larger than air molecules. Dust and smoke absorb much more light, so the light doesn't scatter as well. This leads to a dimmer, duller, grayer look. This also leads to a change in how we observe the sun during sunrise and sunset, and also, believe it or not, the color of the moon at night. When no smoke or haze is present, you see the bright yellow-colored sun with intense, vibrant colors. When smoke and haze are present, though, the sun appears darker. Red and orange colors come through easier. Sunsets and sunrises are a bit more subdued. For Jersey Matters, I'm Nor'easter Nick.
Welcome back to Jersey Matters. In New Jersey, both the unvaccinated and the vaccinated are getting infected by the Delta variant of COVID-19. With that in mind, Jersey Matters' Kimberly Kravitz traveled across the state to ask people how they're feeling about the vaccine now. Kimberly.
The rise of COVID-19, especially the Delta variant, is particularly impacting areas where we see low vaccination. Governor Murphy continues to urge the public to get their shots, and so far we've seen universities and healthcare workers mandate the COVID-19 vaccine. But how do New Jersey residents feel of a potential statewide mandate?
If the government mandated a vaccine, I would move to Florida personally.
Well, that's how one parent of 6 feels about she and her family being forced into getting the COVID-19 vaccine.
I believe that the risks are greater with getting the vaccine than they are without getting the vaccine.
You know, how do we reach herd immunity without everybody becoming on board? And it's just, what is your response to that?
So my response is, as of yesterday, 70% of New Jersey residents were vaccinated. I think we're almost there. And if you have your vaccine, you should feel secure and you should feel safe. And don't worry about me if I don't, because my life, my body, my choice.
Another mom tells me that she too will not be getting the COVID-19 vaccine after she already had it and was hospitalized.
I think that should be left between a doctor and a patient, the choice of doing that, not the government. People that are getting the vaccine are getting COVID. So how safe and effective really is it?
The most recent data from Israel evaluating effectiveness of the Pfizer vaccine against the Delta variant found the vaccine to be 64% protective against infection and 93% effective in preventing severe disease and hospitalizations.
Now we are dealing with the Delta variant, which is really quite a lot more transmissible than the Alpha variant, number one. And number two, the data are clear, the most recent data, that when a person gets infected who has been vaccinated, namely a breakthrough infection, and they get infected with the Delta variant, that the level of virus in their nasopharynx is about 1,000 times higher.
Larry Shear believes in the vaccine and received it as fast as he possibly could.
I got it as soon as I could, actually. I tried to get it faster.
Your message to those that haven't been vaccinated?
I think it's absolutely ridiculous. I think this has been made into a political situation that is absurd. We all have to start taking care of each other in this country. We all have to think of the other man.
And Erica Joseph tells me that she was a no-vaxxer at first and then was required to get her shots for work. She's glad she did.
My opinion, at the beginning, I was very, very adamant about not having it. And then, I have to get it through for my job. If it's mandated that everyone should have it, I think everyone should have it.
The overall metrics, if you look at hospitalizations and rate of transmission, is down. But the newer variants are spreading faster and present a grave danger to those who are not yet vaccinated. Reporting for Jersey Matters, I'm Kimberly Kravitz.
All right, thank you, Kimberly. Coming up next on Jersey Matters.
I'm Phil Anderson. Coming up on Jersey Matters, we'll take you to Cape May, where they now have a museum to honor the conductor of the Underground Railroad.
Live events are back at Bell Works in Homedale. The Axelrod Contemporary Ballet Theater, with guest dancers from New York, are presenting Three's a Crowd all weekend. Performances run tonight through Sunday. Tickets are available online starting at $40. Welcome back to Jersey Matters. I'm Larry Menti. Post-pandemic, New Jersey's museums are opening now. One museum in particular decided to reopen on Juneteenth. Jersey Matters' Phil Andrews takes us now to the Harriet Tubman Museum in Cape May. Phil.
Well, as you know, Larry, there is talk of replacing Andrew Jackson on the $20 bill with the likeness of Harriet Tubman. Tubman, of course, responsible for freeing African Americans from slavery during the Civil War. And now here in Cape May, they have a museum to honor that freedom fighter. Located just a stone's throw from the corner of Franklin and Lafayette Street, the Harriet Tubman Museum was supposed to open June 19th of 2020, but COVID-19 put a hold on those plans. COVID, however, did not stop them from celebrating a grand opening with Governor Phil Murphy on hand for the ribbon cutting.
Everyone who worked to make this museum a reality, to the museum board and staff, to the Macedonia Baptist Church, to all the financial and spiritual supporters and friends, I say thank you. Congratulations again. This is an extraordinary day. This is a welcome and wonderful addition to our state's cultural and historical landscape.
Of course, there are some who question what exactly is Harriet Tubman's connection to Cape May.
The connection with Harriet Tubman and Cape May is Harriet Tubman's time that she spent freeing slaves included some time in Philadelphia. During that time in Philadelphia, she was able to connect with others who came to Cape May to work jobs, to earn money, and with that money that she earned during the 2 summers or more that she spent in Cape May, she used it to finance her trips and to take slaves to freedom.
Now, this ceremony was part of the museum's formal opening to the public on June 19th of this year, or as many of us have come to know it, Juneteenth, marking a day in 1865 when over 250,000 black Americans enslaved in Texas were told that slavery had been abolished following the conclusion of the Civil War, some 2.5 years after Abraham Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation ended slavery.
There are many wonderful exhibits, historical exhibits in the Harriet Tubman Museum, some that connect to Harriet Tubman, some that connect to the story of slavery and slavery's evolution in New Jersey. We also have a whole section that speaks to the abolitionist in Cape May, Stephen Smith, whose house is right across the street from the Harriet Tubman Museum. We have videos. We have the video of William Still, who talks about in his book, The Underground Railroad, the role of Cape May and how many slaves crossed the Delaware Bay to get to Cape May. And then in Cape May, they either stayed with landowners in Lower Township and/or people in Cape May who hid them and got them up to Philadelphia, from Philadelphia moving on to different directions to freedom.
Now, if you're interested in coming down and visiting the museum, it's open Wednesday through Saturday from 10 to 5, and then again on Sunday from 2 to 5. Admission, $10 for adults and $5 for the little folk. Hey, come on down. You just might learn a little something. In Cape May for Jersey Matters, I'm Phil Andrews.
Welcome back to Jersey Matters. I'm Larry Menti. Democratic Congressman Andy Kim from New Jersey's 3rd Congressional District, which is Ocean and Burlington counties, is considered one of the most vulnerable congressmen in the country in the 2022 midterm elections. Several Republicans are considering running against him, but only one has announced: biochemist and former senatorial candidate Tricia Flanagan. Thank you so much for joining us today. Before we did the interview, I looked at your Facebook page and the video that's caused some controversy, and I watched it. And it's, by the way, it's extremely well done. But what you're getting some flack about, especially from Congressman Andy Kim, who you hope to unseat, is that you said he's not one of us and he's an Asian American, and he took that as a racial slur. What is your response?
Yeah, I mean, it's not surprising given the context of the political discourse at this point in time. However, I was a little shocked because his own party leader, arguably is Barack Obama, and Barack Obama used the exact phrase in his 2012 run against Mitt Romney. And it was clear from the ad that I was talking about political ideology, which is, I'm assuming, how Barack Obama used it as well. When we look at the dynamics of CD3 in New Jersey, it's the reddest part of New Jersey. Overall, the district is a +3 Republican district, but part of it, Ocean County, is a +23 Republican district, Republican County, I should say. President Trump won that district twice, in 2016 and in 2020. And Andy Kim voted for impeachment twice. So he's not only of the political persuasion that's really going against the tide of CD3, but he's against President Trump, which the district clearly is for. So that's the reference I was making. When you look at him being an outsider, he votes with Nancy Pelosi 98% of the time. He opposed President Trump every step of the way that he could, and he's basically a socialist. That really is not a reflection of the constituency in CD3. I think it was clear, the reference that I was making, and it shows me that Andy Kim is ready to play divisive politics, to take things out of context. And when you look at the delicate sensibilities that he displayed in his response, he is ready to play the race card. That's not what I'm about. I'm about unity, and I'm about representing the true political ideologies and the true constituents of CD3. Game is on.
One other thing that you said in the ad was that you are a biochemist, and you pushed back at Governor Murphy saying he got it all wrong. Now we have a new spike in cases, so this is going to become an issue again. Just today, we're taping this on Wednesday, the governor said he's not mandating it, but he is suggesting strongly that people wear masks indoors, everybody, vaccinated or unvaccinated. Did he get that wrong, and what else did he get wrong?
Well, yeah, I think when you look across the board, the policies that he's implementing is not reflecting what the real science says. So I'd like to first take the resurgence issue that you just mentioned. Phil Murphy has not pushed back on Joe Biden's policy of bringing illegal border crossers, not just across the border, but directly to New Jersey. We hear in every headline, especially in the last couple of days, how these illegal border crossers are COVID positive, how they're really not being tested at large, but when they are tested, they're being shipped across the country in spite of lack of vaccinations, and in spite of the fact that they're coming from countries that have 6 to 7% vaccination rates. When we look at what's being introduced into our communities, the better way to look at the real science, what I would recommend Phil Murphy do, is he look at what really is going to protect our communities. Number one, masks don't work. I challenge any Democrat watching now to show us the data. I challenge the CDC to do the same thing, and the World Health Organization. In fact, the New England Journal of Medicine showed last year in June of 2020 that masks actually don't work because of the porosity of what they let in. A virus is a very, very small particle. Without getting too technical, why I bring that up is that Phil Murphy just wants to take something that he hears from Joe Biden, from the Democrat overlords, and force more lockdowns. Why not look at the real science? Why not do what Governor DeSantis does in Florida? He protected the elderly. Why don't we get vaccines to those who need it, preserve our American freedoms, and most importantly, protect American businesses, which the New Jersey Shore, I don't think we could suffer through another lockdown.
You mentioned the vaccine, so you're encouraging everybody to get the vaccine?
So I encourage people to do what's best for them in a discussion with their own private physicians.
Have you and your family been vaccinated?
I don't discuss my medical issues or my family's, just as I would encourage every American not to do. We have HIPAA restrictions that were revamped in 2013 that provide exactly that kind of medical privacy as a legal endowment for every American. I would encourage everyone to push back on questions like that, because that's really nobody else's business. I think that a lot of lawsuits are going to crop up as a result of these mandates that are being imposed, especially at the federal government level. And I think that we have yet to see in this new legal territory what those rights are, what rights will prevail. I think we have the law and the Constitution on the side of medical privacy.
You're saying they might be challenged. Do you believe that even a private business cannot require people to have vaccinations?
I think when you look at the right to privacy, again, that was established under the HIPAA regulations of 2013, there is no entity that can, outside of your physician's office, that can either require or disclose that information. I think that's going to be the crux of the legal arguments that are put forward from this very, very uncharted legal territory.
Thank you so much for your time today. Tricia Flanagan, Republican candidate for Congress. Still to come on Jersey Matters, naked and afraid seems like a terrible way to be, but it's made New Jersey native Dani Beau a star. We'll talk with her next. Welcome back. She grew up in Medford, New Jersey, went to Lenape High School, and grew up to be a reality TV star. Dani Beau will be making her third appearance on Naked and Afraid this Sunday night. It's the highest rated show on the Discovery Channel. Here's my interview with Dani Beau. Hi, Dani. Thanks so much for doing this. We should start off, just for people who don't know the show, exactly what Naked and Afraid is.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Sure.
I'm really happy to be here. Naked and Afraid is Discovery's #1 show. The original concept is one male and one female are partnered up. You're a complete stranger. You don't know anything about your partner. You are taking off your clothes. You each bring one item and you have to make it through a 21-day challenge.
And how did you get interested in that show?
Well, 7 years ago was when I did my first challenge, and I was working as a wilderness EMT and teaching like basketry courses and primitive skills courses. So they were scouting, looking for people that had this lifestyle. And then when I found out it was also an awesome adventure, it was like, why not? I want to go for this. And it's known as the Everest of challenges, and I wanted to dive into that.
So you were scouted for it. They approached you. They told you the concept of the show, and they told you the whole thing. And I just think that most people, when they hear that they have to be naked and meet somebody for the first time out in the wilderness and then try to survive, they're probably going to pass. What was it about that you heard that you got excited about that?
The nakedness, it is censored, so I was okay with that, first of all. But it really just makes it a true challenge. Like, you are going back to where our ancestors began from. They didn't have clothes, they didn't have shoes. And I just love the idea of utilizing your resources, plant materials, tree bark, to make everything from scratch, and then just really connect with your environment in that way.
Now, I know that you have an extensive background. You're a professor right now at Rowan University, and but you are also, it says in your bio, you're a survivalist. And you were a survivalist before you got involved with the show. Is that right?
Yes. Yep. From a young age.
What is a survivalist?
A survivalist is also similar to like a bushcrafter. I like that word better. So it's kind of the art of taking whatever is in your environment. Every environment is going to have different resources, and finding a way to turn that into a tool and to survive and sustain yourself and live that primitive way.
Mm-hmm. What can people expect if they tune in this weekend?
We finished the filming. The All-Stars is going to be me with a male partner. His name is Fernando. It was already announced. And we were placed in the Ecuadorian Amazon rainforest in the middle of peak monsoon season. So picture a lot of wet thunder, lightning, storms, tornado-like winds,
So you're from Medford, New Jersey. You went to Lenape High School.
Mm-hmm.
When you come back to New Jersey and you're back here now and you're teaching at Rowan, what do people recognize you from the show? What do they say to you when they see you in New Jersey?
A lot of people do recognize me, especially in my hometown. People just have so many questions. A lot of people just want to give me a hug and say, I don't know how you did it. And just a lot of questions I get are about how I dealt with the insects, because that really is one of the hardest parts. Like, you have to remember you are completely naked. You don't have the luxury of just covering yourself up if there's bugs. You have to find medicinal plants or make some kind of barrier. I was using mud to form a solid barrier on my skin to prevent them from penetrating into my skin. Right. And then looking for what vines have the qualities to keep them off of me.
How did you become attracted to this?
From a young age, my family has always brought us on backpacking trips, hiking trips, biking, rock climbing. And I was also in the Girl Scouts for a lot of my elementary school years. And I was just always fascinated with Native American history and primitive tools, and just taking whatever is around me and making a basket out of this plant material. I got involved in search and rescue, which led me to working in wilderness medicine. And if you have to rescue someone up on a mountain, you have to learn how to make everything that you usually have in your ambulance up on that mountain.
Well, that's wonderful. We can't wait to watch the show. I'm sure that a lot of people are going to want to watch it now, maybe that never watched it before because you're from New Jersey and just because of who you are. So it's this Sunday. What time on Discovery?
Yeah, so it's Sunday, August 1st. It's going to be a 2-hour season premiere of the brand new season. So it's from 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock.
Wonderful. Dani, thanks so much for spending time with us. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Dani Beau, star of Naked and Afraid. Next on Jersey Matters.
Record-breaking crowds turn out for the return of the New Jersey Lottery Festival ballooning. I'm Sherry Carabin, and coming up on Jersey Matters, I'll have all the highlights from the 3-day event.
Not a bad weekend at all. It's kind of like 75-25 with gorgeous weather on Saturday. We're looking at some passing showers coming our way throughout the day on your Sunday, especially mid to late afternoon and evening as a disturbance passes offshore. So we will keep our eyes to the skies. Doesn't look to be a washout, but just have that in the back of your mind. And this upcoming week, it's a cooler pattern as the North Atlantic Oscillation goes into its negative phase. And this is the result. Your warm weather is pushed back over the northern tier of the country. You have the cooler stuff getting into the southeast United States, and we are even in on this, meaning several days with temperatures in the lower 80s. So that's just fantastic. Here comes our disturbance. Offshore, most of the rain is going to be all week long because our jet stream is down to our south and west, so we really shouldn't see many chances of adverse weather, but we'll keep our eyes open. Your 7-day outlook is going to show you temperatures very much consistent, but we do climb back up by the end of the week.
Welcome back to Jersey Matters. I'm Larry Menti. It is the largest hot air balloon and music festival in the country. And after a year off because of the pandemic, the New Jersey Lottery Festival of Ballooning returned to Sahlberg Field in Reddington, New Jersey this year. And our Sherry Carabin tells us there were some big name performers and even bigger balloons. Sherry.
Larry, after last year's cancellation due to the pandemic, organizers say this year's crowds were larger than ever. From dozens of spectacular hot air balloons and headlining concerts to tasty treats and even some amusement rides, there was something for everyone.
Pilots say if you inflate it, they will come.
And that's certainly what happened at the 38th Annual New Jersey Lottery Festival of Ballooning. The 3-day event took place from July 23rd through July 25th at Sahlberg Airport in Reddington Township, drawing record-breaking crowds, with most patrons having one thing on their minds.
We're waiting for the hot air balloon come up, so my boy can see it.
What's your favorite part?
The balloons.
And this year there was quite an assortment to choose from.
We have close to 100 hot air balloons, all different sizes and shapes. The signature balloon is the New Jersey Lottery Summer Days balloon, which is a 10-story high sunshine balloon. We have T-Mobile Unicorn. We have a sloth. We have Buzzy, which is this crazy animal. We have Fred G. Rabbit. We have the Pepsi balloon, which is a football. So all different balloons from all across the country. And they have gone up and will go up at 6:30 in the morning and 6:30 at night when the winds are the calmest.
For those in search of a deeper understanding of what makes a hot air balloon tick, there was a chance to take a walk on the inside without leaving the ground. The festival featured some big-name performers like Bare Naked Ladies, Max Weinberg's Jukebox, and Styx, among others. There were also plenty of vendors, lots of food choices, tasty treats, and a wide variety of little and big kid amusement rides. What did you try?
The car and motorcycles.
The car and the motorcycle. Just right there.
With the pandemic postponing and eventually canceling the 2020 festival, some former patrons were on a mission to make up for lost time. Did you miss it last year?
We did. We really did. It was disappointing because we couldn't be outside, but now we can.
This woman says the offerings have improved since her last visit about 5 years ago.
They have more activities here, and we got so many out of free stuff, ice cream for my son to enjoy.
While some chose to be spectators, others like this couple opted for the role of balloon passengers, traveling all the way from Chicago to enjoy their very first ride early Saturday morning.
It's pretty quiet. It was much quieter than I thought it would be. It was a very smooth ride and calm.
It was beautiful seeing all the other balloons.
Scenery, being there early in the morning, see the sunrise. It was nice, very nice.
While the balloons went off without a hitch on Saturday morning, unfortunately, high winds caused them to be grounded on Saturday night. In an effort to showcase the balloons safely, organizers did try inflating and tethering them to the ground. But the wind had other ideas, and eventually what wasn't allowed to go up just had to come down. Is it a hard job holding on to that balloon?
It can be in high winds. You got to keep it from bouncing back and forth like it is now. In lower winds, not really.
Luckily, Saturday night was the only one in which the wind didn't cooperate, with the balloons going up and the festival's famous balloon glow on display both Friday and Sunday evenings. For those who missed the chance to see the spectacular events, it's the perfect excuse to return, assuming you need one. Reporting from Reddington Township, this is Sherry Carabin for Jersey Matters.
All right, thank you, Sherry. My commentary is next. You may not realize it from these pictures, but the U.S. borders are officially closed for legal crossings and tourism. This as the Mexican border, the Canadian border, and overseas flights to this country for foreign tourists closed off. This as the Biden administration has pressured other countries to open their borders for United States tourists to visit there. So this summer, flocks of vaccinated and recently tested Americans have been flying to London, to Paris, to Amsterdam to spend their hard-earned money, while at the same time, vaccinated tourists from European countries, even if they've been tested, are not allowed to fly here and spend their money here. It makes no sense. There is simply no reason that vaccinated Americans who have been tested can get on a return flight to the United States from Europe, and yet European tourists who have been vaccinated and who have not tested positive can't get on a flight to come to the United States. Especially since Canada and most European countries have done a much better job of getting their populations vaccinated than we have. Now, vaccinated Canadians are allowed to fly to the United States, but get this, they can't drive here by car. They can't cross the border on the ground. Now, Americans will be able to drive across the border into Canada after pressure from the Biden administration. The Canadian government decided to allow Americans to come to their country by car starting August 9th. But so far, the Biden administration has not reciprocated. This is big news for Canadian border towns because they make most of their money from Americans driving over the border, while at the same time, border towns in this country will continue to suffer. Across the country, foreign tourism dollars are way down. In 2019, before the pandemic, resorts, hotels, airlines, restaurants brought in an estimated $181 billion from foreign tourists. In 2020, during the pandemic, that number dropped to $42 billion. 2021 isn't looking much better. The Mexican border also closed for legal visitors, for legal immigration, for tourists. But by the end of the year, it's estimated that over 2 million people will cross the Mexican border illegally under Biden administration policies. That will be an all-time record. Now remember, the reason all these borders are closed to legal visits, to tourism, is because of fear of the spread of COVID-19 and its variants. And yet the New York Times and other news outlets report that the Border Patrol is so overwhelmed that they don't have the time or the resources to test all of those who cross the border illegally before they release them into the general population of our country, awaiting their asylum hearings that they rarely show up for. And that's just the people who have been apprehended or are seeking asylum. We have no idea how many have come through the border and escaped detention and have spread out across America and have potentially spread COVID. And yet, we have stopped legal immigration into this country from Mexico and from Central America and every other country because we want to stop the spread of COVID. But at the same time, if you cross illegally, you're probably not going to get tested and you'll be released somewhere in the country pending processing. So combined, these nonsensical policies hurt our economy, hurt our relationships with our allies, and continue the spread of COVID-19 and its variants in our country. Meanwhile, domestic travel is unregulated. The vaccinated, the unvaccinated, those with COVID-19 can travel from state to state, sometimes going to states with lower vaccination rates than most of the rest of the world. This is a problem that is so easy to get right if you remove politics from the equation. Our borders should be closed to illegal entry, open to legal entry. And we should welcome those with open arms who want to visit our country and spend their money if they are vaccinated and tested. See? Wasn't that easy? I was able to figure that out using a quality that has been lost in Washington, D.C. It's called common sense. I'm Larry Menti. We'll talk again soon.